What's up, y'all? You know what time it is. It's about to be that time.
Savage.
Welcome to Theory for Theory, a series on the channel where another One Piece YouTuber and I go head-to-head with their theories, my theories, and community theories. My guest this week was The Hidden Island. We talked about a lot of things, Hiyori being the big tragedy of Wano, future parallels and inversions, the next Straw Hat, and Joy Boy not being human. Hope you enjoy.
What's up, y'all? You know what time it is. It's about to be that time.
Welcome, everybody. Here we are. We're back with another edition of Theory for Theory. All right. We're joined today with our special guest, The Hidden Island.
Hello, everybody. Randy, thank you for having me. I am so happy to be on here. I got to be honest. I've been loving all the Theory for Theories up until now. So I've been itching to get on here and share some thoughts and talk to you about One Piece. So yeah. Thank you, man. Thank you for having me on. It is an honor.
Don't worry about it, man. Yeah. For today, you're not as hidden, so don't.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I see a lot of people asking if this is a face reveal. It is not a face reveal, guys. I do streams, so I'm not that hidden, but you know we're working on it. We're getting out there a little bit, little by little.
Yep, I see we have Parvision in the chat.
What's up, Parvision?
Just modded him.
That's my dude.
Yep. So now you can see when he pops out. Yeah, no, man. I've been wanting to do this for a while. We both have. We've talked about it, and I mean, you know, now sort of felt like the right time for me, especially considering, you know, one of the the videos that I liked of yours was the Yamato versus Momonosuke video, and I think that conversation is pretty relevant now, especially after 1047, and even the color spread that we got and all of that. Most people in the chat, you know, are pretty well aware of, like, you know, how I feel the crew is going to end up working out, but
right.
Let's see. Now, I mean, you know, I watched your video, but would you say that you're anti-Yamato joining?
No, I'm not actually. I'm not against. Like, I'm not anti-Yamato. I don't have an agenda with that. Right. I personally think the argument is stronger in favor of Momonosuke. But I gotta say, I actually have this. I have this in my notes here. I wanted to bring this up because I know that we share similar opinions on like who's going to join the crew. I know that you believe that Momo and Tama are going to be joining, and that's an idea that I'm also a fan of. Personally, I am leaning towards just the Momo half of it, but I did want to revise my theory live on stream with you because I do think as of recent chapters, I feel like it's in need of a slight revision.
Okay.
I will say though, with chapter 1047, we did get some stuff in the beginning of the chapter when we had the flashback with Momo talking to Toki and talking to Kinemon. It seems like Momo is being forced into this position of leadership. He's not ready for it, you know, and the whole story up until now with Momo has been him growing into this role. So while I do think he, you know, by the end of this arc, he will have had this coming of age moment where he's, you know, kind of filling in the shoes of his father. I don't think he's quite ready yet. I think this flashback at the beginning of the chapter kind of pointed us in that direction, showing us that Momo still has a lot of growing to do. And because of his relationship with Yamato in recent chapters, I'm sort of leaning a little bit more towards maybe both of them join. That's what I'm thinking now. I feel like Momo and Yamato are kind of like a package deal at this point. And I talked about it in my video, how they're kind of both sides of the Odin coin, like the proverbial Odin coin, you know, if we'll say. And I think that the longer this goes on and we see them together, the more I feel like maybe we can't have one without the other. So it might be like Momo and his head retainer Yamato joining the crew, together, kind of like how Odin had Izo and Neko and Inu tagging along on Whitebeard's ship. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm still not totally convinced on Yamato yet, but I'm getting there. It is slowly moving in the direction where, like, okay, I can see both of them joining. You know, I don't know if it's only Yamato though.
Yeah, I've heard the the retainer idea, for a while, or even people comparing to Inu and Neko, like that sort of a situation. We could, it really could. It could go down in a number of ways, and I think that in any other arc there would be an argument where it's like, no, there can only be one.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's an element to Wano where the structure is a little bit different, and I feel like if things go bad in any sort of way, that it may just be a situation where everybody that is with the Straw Hats at that particular time leaves with the Straw Hats. So, there is the argument where if things go wrong, everybody's jumping on the ship. So, we end up getting not necessarily official crew members exactly, but Yamato, Momonosuke, Tama, Carrot, whoever's with them at that particular time, all get onto the Sunny and go to whatever the next island is going to be, which I still believe is probably going to be a breather and, an in-between, let's heal, we got to kind of sort of collect ourselves. That's why I think maybe we're going to I think we're going to go to Sphinx Island, personally.
Okay. That's interesting. Because I've always pegged like the short breather arc as being Elbaf. Because I don't know how we make Elbaf into another massive arc, kind of like Wano, especially considering that, we have the whole issue with Big Mom in Elbaf, but that's kind of getting resolved here, so I feel like we might not have a major conflict to tackle on Elbaf. So it's like, it's interesting that you say Sphinx Island, just because that I haven't thought of that much as being like a destination that they'd have to go to. But it does raise a point.
I want Luffy to have a moment with Ace's grave. And especially if all of this Sabo stuff is going to come to a head in any sort of way, whether he's captured or not. I mean, if he is, then you have this moment where it's like, okay, I'm not going to let this happen to another brother. Luffy is having that moment at the gravesite and can kind of resolve himself, set his convictions, and then we have this powerful moment and we move forward. I've wanted for years an arc where Zoro just sort of takes over for a bit. He's packed up, so I don't know what's going to happen with that. But I truly believe that Luffy is going to be packed up at the end of this as well. And now it seems like Sanji is going to be the person who's going to he's going to have to run point when things go bad here. And that potentially opens us up for, a nothing happened parallel. But
interesting.
But now Sanji is the Zoro in this particular instance, because he's the only one that can do anything when. Because I still feel like there needs to be another element to Wano. Luffy defeats Kaido, something happens. Potentially Vegapunk is that new element on the government ships. I don't think we get out of this situation without Vegapunk. He started this super saga. All the way back in Punk Hazard, there was so much, so much relevance there. The artificial fruit, Momonosuke. Now with Mads and Sanji, Frankie during 3D2Y, and now with Luffy's fruit, right? Yeah. The gigantification, all of that. I know that you're just like myself have been a big Luffy's going to turn into a giant guy. I've been saying that's at his lobby. I know you had a video on it, like. We got it. We got it.
We got it. We got it. We did. I screamed when I saw that panel. I lost my mind. I was like, there's no way. When he went into the sky, the last thing I thought was going to happen was that he'd drop out as a giant. But it worked perfectly, right? Because at the end of Skypiea, we had that moment with him, like the big giant shadow in the sky, where Nolan was looking up, the other Mont Blanc. I don't know why I'm blanking on his name, but he looks up into the sky. Yeah, Cricket. There you go. He looks up into the sky. He sees the big shadow of Luffy's like giant shadow, and to me, I thought that was like reflected perfectly where Luffy is now an actual giant against the clouds in the night sky, and it was like so perfect. That's such a perfect moment. I was glad we hit the nail on the head with that. Because...
Well, I think we're going to get that parallel as well now with if the people of Wano look up. I think that they're going to see the sun god in the sky.
Yeah,
they're going to see Luffy, and we're going to get a some sort of a parallel of that, especially if he adds some fire to this fist.
It'll be interesting, right? Because like we're kind of going to get a reverse silhouette situation where originally when Luffy was like in the sky, it was like a shadow on a bright sky.
Yeah, projection.
You know, projection. But now we get a bright, like glowing Luffy on a dark sky, where it's like kind of like it's visually it's like such a perfect representation of how much he's grown as a character. I would love that. I would love for that to happen, and then at the end of the arc, the storm clouds part, and you have this sort of like, you know, because you always have that thing with the Yonko when they clash, the sky splits. So I want something like that kind of to play into the end of the fight and how this whole whole thing ends, like imagery wise. Yeah.
I mean, the imagery in my mind is that the lanterns are going to go up into the sky. Luffy's going to be knocking Kaido down. The sky is going to open up and allow the dawn and the sunlight to come through and glisten off of Luffy as they're looking up, and they're not going to understand what they're seeing. And you know, I mean that's like Oda imagery in my mind.
Dude. I love it. I love it.
Let me hit some of these chats. A lot of people are complimenting the drip there, my guy.
I had to bring my best to the stream. You know, I got invited onto a stream I'm very much a fan of, and I'm like, this came in about a week ago, and I was like, you know, I have to bust out the Gum Gum card.
Oh, yo, you got the swirls. You got the Oda signature swirls right there.
Yeah,
the Sanji eyebrow swirls.
Thank you guys for hyping up the drip. I knew someone would say something about it. I was hoping.
Oh yeah, the drip is certified. I'm feeling a little uncomfortable in a t-shirt. You know, and it's like, you know, I put this t-shirt on to match your 80s aesthetic, right? So,
yeah,
so I'm sporting the Tech Noir, the club from Terminator right now.
I love it. I'm a big movie guy myself. You know, I know you've mentioned before you work in film. Yeah. That's so cool to me because when I went to college, I was also a film guy, and I just appreciate that. I also saw the Terminator head that you had on your shelf there. It's great.
Oh yeah, for the people, yeah, that lights up too. The eyes light up. I love it.
That's awesome.
My guy Milo, big super chat said, wait. How is the Hidden Island going to come in here with that certified drip and we don't discuss this live? Well, we did, Milo. We had to, like, trust me. You know, we wanted to get through, you know, get a little, you know, starter, little breather, settle into, you know, the theory for theory here, and then, of course, I mean, come on, of course I'm going to talk about the drip. Come on. My guy Maxo said, I love Momo and Yamato for crew, but how we feeling about Hiyori Shogun? I have my own thoughts on this. What are your thoughts?
Hiyori Shogun, I think is, I think it's on the table. I feel like if there's anyone that's going to kind of run the show while Momo, like let's say Momo does join and he's away, if there's anyone that would run the show in the meantime, it would be Hiyori. But I guess this is a spoiler for the discussion. I also think Hiyori has death flags on her right now, and we'll talk about that. I don't think Hiyori's going to make it this arc.
Oh, that's a flaming hot Cheeto take.
Whoa! I think we'll get into the details of it. I do feel fairly strongly about this, and you know, let's say she does make it, then yeah, sure. But
I have never heard that in my life.
Yeah, it's a well.
All right.
I don't want to derail and get into it right now, but I will say this: who else dying in the story would propel Momo into action? Who would get him to grow up faster than anyone else if they were to die right now? Who's an important character that has been set up as like a major influence for all the scabbards and the raid and Momo? For them to die and for them to be on Onigashima right now, a little bit sus. And I feel like if there's one arc where we might have that happen, where maybe some characters don't get the screen time we expected, or not every piece gets utilized to their full potential, it's probably this one, because I can't think of any other arc that has had this many like named relevant characters with various like plot lines going on at this. Like, this is probably the most intricate arc in the story at this point.
It is. And it's because Oda is, the idea of this arc was to come into it and expect it to be some sort of like Marineford parallel by a lot of people, right?
Okay, now we're getting into the Hiyori territory that I wanted to talk about. But continue, but yeah.
Because Oda, unlike Marineford, is trying to give everybody these 1v1s, which is something he didn't do during Marineford, which kept the pacing going, kept the chaos, the frenetic energy. Was just like, okay, we don't go back to Marineford and say, man, I wish I got more of Marco versus Kizaru. It's like, no, like, there's so many people here. This is just the way that it goes. There are so many people here in Wano. That's the way that it should be going. But Oda wants to do more and give more, and I mean, I'll take whatever however much of a fight he wants to give, but sometimes the pacing gets hurt from that.
The way. Yeah. All right. Well, this is what you guys wanted to see, because we have some hot takes coming out right now. I'm about to give you my reasoning for the Marineford parallel stuff. I actually think Wano is very much to get spicy. It's very much a direct.
It's about to get spicy.
It's about to get spicy, guys. All right, ready? Wano is, in my opinion, it is Marineford too, and I will justify this with a bunch of reasons.
Okay.
But I will start by addressing the point that we didn't get all those 1v1s in Marineford. I think there's a very good reason for that, because Marineford was told mostly from the perspective of like pre-time skip, like One Piece world, Luffy focus. Luffy's not at the level that the Whitebeard pirates were at. He was kind of in the background, almost in a way like how Marco is now. Luffy was he was doing all the stuff to get to Ace. He was running towards the platform. He was getting in the way of the Marines and knocking a few people around. But the real star of the show was Whitebeard. Whenever Luffy did anything, he'd get intercepted. He'd have to get help from the people around him. He was basically getting tossed around like a rag doll. Whenever Whitebeard would do anything, it was an event. It was announced. Whitebeard's attacking. The strongest man in the world's attacking. Every panel where Whitebeard did anything in Marineford had to be like announced. It had to be this big, yeah. So, and he's my favorite character in the story. I have a video coming out on him very soon, probably within the next few days.
Shit over there.
I'm gonna talk about all of that. But the point I'm trying to make here is that that arc was not about Luffy. That arc was about the Whitebeard pirates. And the reason I say that is because the Whitebeard pirates were an example of how big the gap was between Luffy and where Luffy now and where he needed to be at that Pirate King level. Whitebeard was introduced as the man closest to the One Piece, the man who rivaled Roger, the strongest man in the world. And he goes to this war, and even he doesn't make it out alive. Luffy, from the beginning of the war, was basically carried by the Whitebeard crew. He would have died if not for them. And in front of him, from the beginning, the moment he arrives, he's standing next to Whitebeard, talking to him. He has this kind of like parallel going on where they're like talking on casual terms with each other. But the whole arc, they kind of take two different trajectories, where Whitebeard is this force of nature, and he's able to command an entire fleet of thousands of pirates. And Luffy is this one straggler who's like barely scraping by with his life, trying to save his brother, and fails in accomplishing that. So Whitebeard is an example of what Luffy needs to become, but he's not there yet. When it comes to Wano, I feel like we're now seeing the culmination of that. Luffy watched Whitebeard's leadership. He saw the leadership. He saw the strength. He saw the influence that man had and what he would do to save just one person that he cared about. Now we have Wano, where we have another big war, except this time it's Luffy who's raiding. Whitebeard raided Marineford, Luffy raided Onigashima. Luffy is in the captain's seat now. He is the Whitebeard of this event. And when he comes here to save Momo's on the execution stand instead of Ace. Mm-hmm. We have all the different things with like the Whitebeard pirates coming in. So like this is the first time we see them since Marineford. This is the first time we see Izo since Marineford. We have like familiar faces showing up again for this battle.
Oh, yeah.
And it is now a fight between Luffy, this new emperor, and another major power in the world. By the way, Kaido was also going to come to Marineford as well. So this is like all stuff that was like set up there, paying off here. And I see it. This is where the Hiyori thing comes in, but I see the relationship that Luffy and Whitebeard had being equivalent to the relationship that Momo and Luffy have now, where Momo is now the kid who's fighting for his country. He's fighting to save his country, but he's not strong enough to accomplish it on his own. He's getting help from this legendary pirate who has arrived, raided, supported him with everything he's got. We've seen Luffy tank hits like no other. We just saw him in the last 4 chapters tank 2 Boro breaths. Everyone talks about how tanky Whitebeard was, where he took like 1,000 shots, all this stuff. Luffy's doing the same thing now. He's this tank. He's this legend that's coming in and doing all this crazy stuff. So where does this go? Where does this idea go? Well, if we're getting a Marineford 2.0 and we're going to have a major character death at the end, let's assume that that's on the table here. If Luffy is Ace, who... Or not Luffy is Ace. If Momo is Luffy here, who is Ace? Hiyori is Momo's sister. Ace was Luffy's brother. If Momo is in Luffy's seat here, where he's learning how strong he needs to be a good leader for his people, what he needs to do for his country, if he's like looking up to Odin and thinking, how am I going to live up to this? Luffy is this shining example in front of him, and he's going to need a major kick. I can't say a bad word on stream. Major kick in the butt to get him to grow up and to learn how strong he needs to become. And that to me is Hiyori. Hiyori is the one that's going to have to die here. And why is she on Onigashima? She said to all the scabbards, "We'll see you. I'll see you after the raid." She came to Onigashima to get revenge on Orochi, which didn't seem to work.
So the question is,
I would love for that, and I think it's going to happen. But I just wonder, why bring this this character who's not super important to us as the reader, but super important to Momo. Why is she here, and why is she getting so much screen time now towards the end of this arc? I feel like we're building up...
I'm just imagining Momonosuke just going through another thing, man. Ugh.
Yeah, he would be a tortured soul, right?
Ooh.
So,
Oda, how much torture can you put this boy through?
But this is the thing, right? So, like, if that were to happen, this would be the big catalyzing moment for Momo to stop being a crybaby, for him to stop being so weak mentally and finally grow up. And I think this will be like, if Hiyori does die in the arc, that will be the big tragedy that everyone's been waiting for in Wano, would be this character, Hiyori, dying in front of Momonosuke, or, you know, near him where he can see it, and then having this big moment where Momo has to like pull himself up, like do something about it. Or we have an end of Marineford moment where Momo has to get carried out of there. He's catatonic. And if people are looking for the darkness in Wano, I think that's where it's going to be. I think it's not going to be in like, you know, Law dying or something. Although it's on the table, I just think that Hiyori is the one who has the big target on her back right now with the Marineford parallels and the setup that are happening. I think that's where we end.
Whew.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, that is, yeah. That's spicy. I like that. I don't like it, but I like it.
I don't like it either. I just I love the writing. Like, if that were to work out that way, I could see the writing being very Oda, like a very Oda thing to do.
It's an unexpected thing that I think would. Now I want it. Like now I want it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like the way you structured that, man. Definitely put that video out.
Yeah, I will. I definitely.
And man, just thinking about Momo going through more stuff. But I mean, granted, all of my thoughts with what should happen to Wano is also putting Momo through more stuff. You know, because it's like Maxo asked earlier, you know, like Hiyori for Shogun at the end. It's like, I mean, what if there's no Wano to have a Shogun for? You know, you got world government ships over here that want to annex Wano. right? They want the drunken iron ore. They want to continue making weapons to fund their their warmongering, right? So the only way that's why we need someone like Dragon to come in, who's tied to the weapons, to stop the world government ships, to save Wano. Like, if that's the only way that I see Wano gets out of this in a sort of a healthy way. But if there's going to be a shogun, I think it's going to be Tenguyama Hitetsu, aka Kozuki Sukiyaki, hidden. So
I still like that idea. I think it's interesting if Sukiyaki is Hitetsu.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes with like every single other arc that we've ever had, right? Mm-hmm. The Fallen King that comes back into power. Gonfall, Riku, Cobra, Boodle, Dalton. Like, it's just Oda loves that trope. So
yes,
and why is this man a Kokeshi doll collector? And Sukiyaki had Kokeshi dolls, and why did Orochi just sort of smirk and not give an answer when Oden asked about his dad? It's like, oh, because he's not dead.
And it works perfectly if Momo is to leave Wano and join the crew, having
his grandfather just just watch the fort until he gets back, that makes sense. And then Denjiro stays and he's the aide and just protects Wano.
Yeah, I definitely could see that. I mean, right now my point of view on how Wano ends is rather pessimistic, and it's like, it's funny because I'm usually a rather positive guy. I'm very cheery a lot of the time, but when it comes to this specific arc, I just see not like the raid failing sort of thing, but I see I see an ending that isn't exactly a victory.
Yeah, I always say a half victory. Like, we beat Kaido, but something is going to happen to Wano. Something else is going to happen. Because the other thing too is like, and I know that you're also a big proponent of all of the parallels, and I still feel like the biggest parallel of this arc, more than anything, is actually Thriller Bark. So that's why I feel like we're already up against we had 2 Yonko to go up against, which was in an arc that we had 2 warlords, right?
Warlords, yeah.
So one of my earliest theories was that, when the dust settles, Big Mom gets back up and she becomes, an issue, and like either, fights someone, takes someone's soul, runs off with it. That's why we go to Elbaf, right? But, to follow that up even more, there's still a lot of stuff with Big Mom's story that isn't fleshed out. We need the realization to come to her about what happened on our 6th birthday, and I think that Pudding is the key to that with her memory fruit. Otherwise, why give her the memory fruit? But even still, now with the way that everything is set up, with CP0 being here, with now the world government ships being here, that's why I almost feel like the Kuma now has to be someone that's related to the world government, whether it's Vegapunk or anything like that. Yeah. But we're also at a precipice, and I talk about this, I think, every theory for theory, and probably every stream and everything, where every major player in the world has skin in this game, and whether they're here or not, right? Because it's like Blackbeard has a tie to Moria. Moria has a tie to Kaido. Blackbeard also has a bunch of reasons to come to Wano. Poneglyphs, Robin, whatever. Shanks, there's a movie coming out where he's supposed to be, playing a role in there, and you're never going to get a scene with Shanks and Luffy before it happens in the manga. So if there was ever any sort of thing where that's supposed to happen in Film Red, then Shanks has to pull up to Wano. The Revolutionary Army is the biggest thing, though, because their whole arc and everything that their scenes have been tying up to is to come to Wano and dismantle these factories. So I don't know when that's going to happen, but at some point in the story, it's going to happen. And
I could see the Revolutionaries pulling up. I feel like we're getting a little bit at capacity on Onigashima, but maybe like mainland Wano would be a better place to have like more factions come in if it doesn't just end here.
Yeah.
The Thriller Bark parallels, I've been a big proponent of. In my Gear 5th video where I talk about Luffy becoming a giant, I talk about Thriller Bark being like the main setup for Wano. Sanji fights an invisible man. Wano gets invisible powers. Zoro fights Ryuma. Wano is all about the samurai and Ryuma's home country, and Luffy fights a giant, and then he becomes a giant in Wano. So that was like the big...
Right, and, like, I mean, and the whole everything with Gear 5th to begin with,
yeah,
you know, very Nightmare Luffy, you know, and even in the structure and the title of the chapter, you had Warrior of Hope and then Warrior of Liberation. So, you know, the Thriller Bark parallels are there, and that's why I think, you know, we had the Nothing Happened moment, which was a moment between Zoro, Sanji, and an outside force. So I think it's going to be something similar, but Sanji is going to be the inversion, and he's going to have to deal with something, you know, and then potentially this could be the, you know, whatever this ends up being could be the reason why Sanji feels that he's going to be the biggest threat to the world government. So, and we have the world government here now. So,
yeah, I mean, the world government being there is a big question mark for me, because we have Kaido versus Luffy right now. And the whole thing with the saying where when it's 1v1, bet on Kaido, and Luffy is not the type to kill anyone, but Kaido's goal is to die, you know, a spectacular death. So the way I see it is like, well, Kaido probably has to... So there's a whole thing about like Luffy not letting the villain achieve their goals. And if Kaido's goal is to die, then Luffy's not going to kill Kaido, and we know Luffy's not that type of person. But if Kaido is going to die this arc and not be an issue in the story for the rest of One Piece, he kind of has to be out of the picture. Jail obviously doesn't work. Execution hasn't worked up until now. Trying to off himself has not worked either. So what happens to Kaido? I feel like at the end of this fight with Luffy, it'll be maybe closer to a stalemate, or Kaido is not necessarily out for the count, but he's weakened enough where these world government ships coming in are going to finish the job. And I talked about this on a stream I did recently with Parvision, but I'm pretty convinced now that if we're going to parallel Marineford, if we're going to continue with these Marineford parallels, and an emperor is going to die at the end of the arc, for a new emperor to take their spot in the Big Four, I think Kaido's going to be that guy, and I think it's not going to be Luffy who does him in. It's going to be the world government. Because why else would the ships be there? There would be no point in setting up.
Zunisha's not going to smack him away like the Jack situation. No. They're here for a reason. Now, one of the things that I brought up in my recent video, which was inspired by a comment on the Discord, which was saying, what if, you know, Kaido's got a fish fruit, right? So what if his, you know, Cold Zero over on the Discord said, what if Kaido's awakening is just that, you know, he can swim, and then this becomes like a sea battle where Luffy gets him into the water, and then now I've been saying that Luffy would be able to rubberize the water and like bounce on it, a la Aokiji with, you know, with ice. Hey, I mean, why not? He's rubberizing the ground. He should be able to bounce on water too now. So then we have the world government ships, right? Maybe something happens where Luffy is, you know, he has another situation where he times out, right? Whoever's on the world, those ships, they end up capturing both of them, right? Mm-hmm. And then we actually get the Marineford 2.0, where Luffy is Ace. He's captured. And then now we spend almost the same amount of time that we did without the crew, without Luffy. Zoro leads. Then we have to collect all of our forces, right? Mm-hmm. We get the Grand Fleet. We get everybody that's ever helped Luffy to pull up to Marineford to save Luffy the same way that he liberated all of those other countries.
With the Viva card stuff that was set up with the Grand Fleet too, that makes so much sense.
Right. So that's what I want. Where Sabo is not the one that's captured, right? Maybe he's part of the forces as well. He got away with Vivi. They all reconvene and all of this. He meets up with their crew. Now we have the Revolutionary Army. We have the Surats. We have the Grand Fleet. We have literally everybody that you could possibly imagine. Let's bring a boat with Kureha and Dalton while we're at it. Who cares? You know, we finally see Gin again. And but anyway, everybody is here. The true Smash Brothers end, Luffy's on the execution platform, and everybody pulls up to save him. That's I get chills thinking about that idea, and I love that. And you know,
I love that idea. That's new for me. That's totally new for me.
And especially if, say, the Grand Fleet, right, is responsible for another Impel Down jailbreak that we don't really actually necessarily maybe see, but like they think that Luffy's there, but he's not there, but they end up freeing people like Doflamingo, and we finally get Bon Clay back. There's a lot of things that can happen. I think that Hancock, no matter what, is going to end up at Mary Joa because of her tattoo. So it's, you know, then we finally free Luffy, and then he's able to, with everybody at his side, right, and probably a bunch of defected Marines like Smoker and Kobe and Tashigi and other members of SWORD, right, go up against Emu, go up against Akainu, and we finally free the world. So I'm so on board with that. Like, it's an idea that I think makes so much sense, especially considering that Oda, I think he wants to shake up the formula sometimes, which is what he's been doing for a while now. He's separated Luffy from the crew, and then he had the time skip, and then the crew got like split in half, and now they're together again. And then it's like, what about we try another dynamic? We tried what happens when Luffy doesn't have his crew. We tried what happens when they're split. Now let's try what happens when they're captainless. And that's what I want. That's what I want. That's the inversion I want.
It's perfect. I feel like that would make a lot of sense, and it would be really cool to see Luffy on the execution stand have his own like Roger final words moment where he says something on the execution stand to the whole world, and that like solidifies the image of Luffy in people's minds as like, wait, this is the next Pirate King here. And maybe he hasn't found the One Piece yet, but I could see that being a setup for his final journey to Laugh Tale once he does get freed, or whenever this does happen in the story. I think there will be some major like callback to the imagery of Roger on the execution platform, and then having Luffy in that same position, not necessarily to die in the story, but to kind of like come full circle to show how far he's come. Like, look, from the beginning, here he finally is. He is now held in as high of a regard to be like publicly, you know, put on display like Roger was. And
yeah. And I mean, like, even talking about this right now, it was just like, you know, I've always felt that, you know, before we go to Mary Jo, we should go to Laugh Tale first. But I was just thinking about, you know, what if we free the world, right? And then it's just sort of this chill ride over to Laugh Tale. I mean, maybe we still have to deal with Blackbeard or whatever, but we finally get to Laugh Tale, and then the story is basically a recounting of everything that already happened. It's like someone's going to come 800 years from now and free the world and save everything, and then it's just like, and they laugh because it's like, cool, well, that happened, we did it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a nice way to take the story. I'm very excited to see how Laugh Tale like plays out, because there's so many ways it can go, and you know, I still believe, even though we got Gear 5th and we see what it is and we know how it works, I still want to believe in your theory about the resin coating. And you know, I wasn't all about the resin stuff until I saw your video, and I remember back then I retweeted it because I watched it and I was like, whoa, hold on. So I had to put it out there, and I was like, okay, I was thinking to myself, even after we got the Gear 5th reveal, you know, how can this still work? Because I feel like it makes so much sense. Going back to that stream I had, you know, a couple weeks ago with Parvision, we talked about an idea, and an idea came to my mind, and we kind of like developed this together. He had some stuff he was talking about, like the undersea currents. I had this idea that maybe One Piece, or maybe not the One Piece, maybe Laugh Tale rather, is underwater. And if Laugh Tale were to be this big parallel to the lost city of Atlantis, and I'll support this with more information in a second, but it would make a lot of sense, because if Laugh Tale were on sea level, if it were an island, it wouldn't really make sense for it to be as difficult to find as it is. The world government has so many ways to get around. They have all this advanced technology with Vegapunk. Yeah. You would think you would think it wouldn't be as mythical of a place if it were just sitting there out in the ocean, maybe obscured by mist. I don't know. I just don't buy that being like the way it's hidden so well. It being under the ocean makes a lot more sense to me, because we have these coordinates with the 4 road poneglyphs, and where would they connect? You have 4 different points. They cross at an X. What's on the X? Laugh Tale. But what would make it really useful to have those coordinates is if you couldn't see Laugh Tale immediately, so you'd have to know where to be and then where to go down. This connects to the whole Ohara theory, this like the best One Piece theory ever video that he made a while ago, where he said he like translated something about Roger's quote talking about where the One Piece was, and I think the rough translation was, "I left it down there." That's how it translated. So the One Piece is down somewhere. If it's under the ocean, and Laugh Tale is basically Atlantis, it works perfectly with the real Atlantis, because the real Atlantis was said to be an advanced society. It was said to have like represented the philosophical like perfect government that Plato thought of. It had all these like advancements. It was like a perfect society, but it sunk into the ocean. And the first place that people learned about Atlantis's existence, according to records, was from hieroglyphs in Egypt. And where's the first place that we see a poneglyph in the story? It's in Alabasta. So to me, the idea of like hieroglyphs in Egypt leading to a lost city that's under the water, an advanced society, just seems like so in line with what we've been experiencing with One Piece so far. And for it to be like under the water there would be crazy. And this all ties back into your theory with like the instant ship coding, needing to like go into the water, you know, suddenly, or like have the ability to coat your ship to get somewhere. How did Roger get to Laugh Tale? Well, he had Rayleigh on his ship. He had a coder on board. The Straw Hats don't have that. Yeah. So that would kind of solve everything. That would make it all work. So I want to believe it, because this idea,
as you were
Atlantis,
saying that, I was going to chime in with Rayleigh being able to code it. So
yeah, so it's like it just works. I feel like that would be the, like if your theory is true and this theory that I have here is true, they would work together. So that's why I'm really rooting for it. I'm really rooting for the resin coding.
Yeah, it's like a lot of people say that the resin is stupid, and it's like I think that it was blown out of proportion with whatever anybody else was saying about it. But it's like I tried to find some like cool things to do. If Luffy was able to produce rubber, which he has not shown an affinity to do yet, but if he's already got Paramecia and Zoan abilities. If he's shown to end up having some sort of Logia property where now suddenly he can produce rubber, as a level up to his awakening, then he can start creating weapons out of, like plastic weapons almost that he can, sharpen and use and create a Candle champion, because he's always copying other people's moves and things like that. But I would love if Sabaody with the resin and the bubbles and everything like that was like a foreshadowing for what Luffy can do, and that he's able to just code a ship in 3 seconds. Like that part of it is cool to me. What other people were talking about with oil and all of this stuff, like I don't care about that. But him being able to actually code a ship is awesome to me. Let's instantly go underwater. Then he could code a bunch of ships, and like do a Whitebeard at Marineford, that kind of that's the kind of stuff that just like that gets me going. I want to get into some chats here. Vernon Co said breaks over, gotta bounce, like D-Stream and sub to Hidden Island. Yes, everybody. All right, if you like the discussion, all right, and you like the points that the Hidden Island is saying, his information is linked below. Sub to my guy.
Please do. Sub to me. Follow me on Twitter. I promise I won't let you guys down. If you like what you're seeing today, there's so much more of that on my channel.
Michael Lacoste, Third Eye Guy, said, happy to finally have an opportunity to chat big like this for you. Honestly, I can't thank you for starting this channel enough. Found you about the time Started back up with One Piece after a big break, and I've never felt more involved and invigorated as a fan of One Piece. Yeah. Michael,
That's awesome.
Michael, my guy, you know, he's in here, you know, he's over with us on Twitch too. My dude, man.
Thank you, bro.
You know, I love this community. I love you guys. You know, like seriously, like this is, you know, it's the same for me. I've never felt more involved and invigorated. And I'm going back even to Arlong Park and, you know, doing the Kaizu fan subs and all of that stuff like now, but being able to like actively chat with everybody in real time with these streams. I'm glad everybody, you know, when I started doing videos, you guys pushed me to do this, because this is exactly what I wanted to get out of creating a YouTube channel. I thought I was getting it from just answering every comment.
Another one.
Yeah.
But being able to talk with everybody like this is just, oh man. It's
Absolutely.
crazy.
I wouldn't be doing it if it weren't for just how like fun it is to engage with the community constantly, because otherwise it would just be me talking into a microphone on video. Like, you know, I'm basically talking to a wall.
Oh, I say it all the time. I'm just a guy talking to myself if there's nobody in the chat here. You know?
Exactly.
I want to shout out Parvision because he did a super chat earlier. He said, smiling ear to ear already just from watching. Excited to see what epic conversations come out from this clash. And I have to shout out that he did a $10.47 donation for which is hilarious.
Great.
Yeah.
Nice.
Because here we are talking about 1,047 chapters of One Piece. Lucy B said, do you think the Sun God Nika thing has been planned by Oda? And if you think that, to which detail could this even have been planned? Well, I think that, you know, I'm going to get into this in my next theory that is coming out, which is going to be about that I believe that Joy Boy, the original Joy Boy, much like Chopper, was not human and ate the human fruit. But you know, in the Nolan and Calgara flashback, we are told about 4 gods, the Sun God being one of them. Yep. We learn about the you know, we hear more about the Sun God and how it relates to Elbaf through Mother Carmel and how they worship the Sun God. I think that there was always an idea for a Sun God in the story, whether or not that is actually, you know, tied to Luffy or anything like that, you know, we don't know. But there was always some sort of a Sun God, at least since Skypiea, meant to be in the story.
And if I may add to that, we have a lot of Skypiea stuff going on in Wano right now. We have a literal island floating in the sky held up by clouds. We have the significance of the moon coming up. We have the Sun God stuff coming up again. We have lightning, which is an important point here, because if what you're saying is true about Luffy, or not Luffy, Joy Boy not having been a normal human, I think that's a very possible idea. I remember I was in your stream once, and I think I mentioned something about Joy Boy being a monkey, like a literal monkey of some sort, maybe a mink, possibly. And this goes into the Minx connection that you've talked about before with the Sulong, the white hair. Now we see Luffy literally throwing lightning spears. And electricity is a power of the Minx. And if this is like a direct result of like Joy Boy's ability, then it's possible that Joy Boy was like an ape or like a monkey mink. And that would also make sense. Like, why are the minks on Zunisha's back? Zunisha's friend was Joy Boy. If Joy Boy was a mink, that would make a lot of sense.
See, so, I believe that a game of telephone happened over the years. And that there were, you know, obviously there was hieroglyphs and there were conversations that were going around. Because when you go to the Nolan and Calgara flashback and Moose is, you know, being executed to appease the Sun God, right? But there is an avatar for the Sun God, and it is a giant snake. I think Joy Boy was a snake, and I think that that's why they held even Nola to a high regard in Skypiea as well. And we see Nola dancing around with little singing notes and all this stuff, always smiling and everything like that. And I think that Joy Boy was probably an ancestor of these snakes, but, you know, and then we also have, you know, and I'll be a little more articulate in my theory, but Snake Man. The only version of Gear 4th that is actually an animal. Bound Man, Tank Man, Snake Man. If there's some sort of memory in the fruit, then, that there may be some sort of subtle thing for Luffy there. And we have the Snake Princess, Hebihime, falls in love with the person who has the Sun God Nika fruit. And the silhouette is very snake-like as well. So, but even more to that from a thematic standpoint, I think that it lines up because basically, if Joy Boy was a snake and ate the fruit, then he wouldn't be a mink because he's a reptile. He wouldn't be a fishman because he's not going to be able to breathe underwater. He's not quite human, like Chopper's not quite human. He's not quite snake, like Chopper's not quite reindeer. So he's a perfect outcast, a complete outcast, right? But he's the liberator of slaves. He's the liberator of the people, right? Because he wanted to be accepted. So he goes out of his way to save everybody else because he has no classification of his own and no name because he's a snake. But he's always smiling and laughing, so they call him Joy Boy.
So the one thing I will say, and I do like that idea because I think snakes and serpents have a very major significance in One Piece as a whole. At the entrance of the Grand Line at Reverse Mountain, there's a bunch of pillars that display serpents on them. I have this whole theory about how the giants of Elbaf regard the Red Line as a great serpent covered in blood, and how that connects to like the Jormungandr, the world snake, and all this stuff. Yeah. So there's a lot of serpent symbolism in One Piece.
I want to get into Jormungandr with the, I've already shot it. So I get into it with Jormungandr a bit as well, because if a giant snake ate this, Nika fruit and had rubber abilities, they were able to become even bigger.
True.
So
that makes sense.
Jormungandr was able to wrap itself around the world, right? Huh. So then you would get pretty close if you were a snake the size of Nola and Kashi, and then turn into a giant beyond that.
Yeah, I mean, if he could be even trapped within the Red Line for all we know. We don't know what exactly happened to Joy Boy. He could be held like prisoner within the Red Line, and breaking the Red Line would free him. It could be something like that. I do want to put a point out there for the monkey mink theory, because I think that if we're talking about Snake Man, I also want to talk about how Luffy's name from the beginning has monkey in it. How in Skypiea, the very same arc, there were it wasn't like poneglyph text, but it was like engravings. I'm not sure where it was exactly. I have to go look it up. But
let me put this in perspective. Nika and Joy Boy are two different people. I think that Joy Boy was a snake, Nika was a mink. So Nika very well could have been a monkey and could be like the Sun Wukong, avatar or anything like that. Be this monkey, and then the very first being to go Sulong. And that's...
So you're saying Joy Boy ate the... So Nika was separate from Joy Boy, you're saying, and he also had the Nika fruit. Is that, or you're saying he didn't even have the fruit at all? He was a completely... So I'm trying to...
I think that there has to be a Nika that existed, and that some way, somehow, the devil fruit has the property or the lineage factor of the original Nika. And then the snake ate the fruit and became the second coming of Nika.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I could still see Joy Boy and Nika being two separate people. I'm sort of leaning towards them being the same person, just because of the last few chapters and Zunisha directly addressing Joy Boy in the context of Luffy eating the fruit. I feel like...
But never referring to Joy Boy as Nika.
Never directly, yeah. So that's the only thing. That's like the linchpin in this idea of them being separate.
Because it's also strange that we have something like Sengoku's fruit, the model Daibutsu, right? So how did we get a fruit of Buddha? Right? So then it just kind of gets into this tricky territory of how are devil fruits made? You know, I mean, like,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. How are they made? Like, where are these god fruits coming from exactly? I did an entire like lengthy theory. It's probably my most popular theory about how devil fruits were made. But in that video, I spoke about how in Japanese culture there's a belief that everything has a soul within it, and the phrase for this is Yasogami. It's like many gods, essentially, is like a rough translation. But they believe that everything from like the chair you're sitting in to the clouds in the sky to the sand on the ground, everything has a soul. There are souls or gods within everything, which is also a reason that in Japanese culture they don't like to waste food, because they say that like in every grain of rice there's 7,000 gods. If you were to waste even a single grain of rice, you're throwing away all those souls that are in the rice. So they don't like to waste food. They don't like to be wasteful. They're very protective of the things they own. Because of this belief, I feel like this is like so ingrained in Japanese culture that I wouldn't be surprised if Oda took this concept and applied it to One Piece, where everything has a soul. And this goes back to every sword or everything has a breath that Zoro was talking about in Alabasta, the voice of all things. What is the voice of all things? Awakening. Yeah, so like if there is a voice of all things, if everything has a voice, is it possible that there's someone who could have commanded that voice from every individual thing in the world and put it into a fruit? Right? Which is why we would get all these wacky abilities like rubber, or like even like concepts such as being able to split apart, or things like gravity. Everything has a spirit within it. So that would make a lot of sense for it to transfer into a fruit. The question that comes up though is, where are these god fruits coming from? Are we supposed to assume that there were literal gods in the One Piece world at one point, or like godlike beings? I'm not entirely sure, but it's on the table, right? Because we don't know what happened 800 years ago. We don't know what the world looked like. So it could be like a man versus God thing. And this is going back to the Jormungand, or the world snake, which is when the story goes that when the snake's hold on its own tail, when that loop breaks, that will herald in the age of man. It will end the age of the gods and bring the age of man. So like maybe there was an inverse that happened there, where once the red line was created, once the loop was created, it ended an era of gods and began an era of man. Man being the world government, ruling over the world, and all these gods and myths and all these amazing things were left in the blank century. So I feel like there's an interesting inversion that's possibly on the table happening here, and maybe those fruits came from all these gods using the voice of all things to put themselves into devil fruits, to carry themselves forward through the generations. So that's pretty much, I mean, it makes a lot of sense for me at least, but I'm very curious to see how Oda explains this, because Kuma's walking around with the Bible. I want to know if that's like actually the Holy Bible, or if that's like a One Piece,
right, exactly. And I mean, but you also have things like the Adam tree, the Eve tree, and there's even a shot in the Nolan Calgara flashback where Saito, the son-in-law of Calgara, is feeding an apple to Nola. And it's like, there's all this like subtle imagery there and things like that. And yeah, there's a lot I'm getting into that video. I think that the apology was basically Joy Boy failing to get them back onto the surface. And if I had to tie it into my Tamate Bako theory, I think that the pills that Hody took were created by Joy Boy and his alliance of people to emulate Joy Boy's power to take on the world government, but nobody's bodies could handle the strain. So when they all ended up on the front line, they all collapsed, and Joy Boy lost his entire army because he thought that they were able to take them on, but their bodies just broke down and everybody shriveled up, and it was just him by himself, and that's what he had to apologize for.
Could I play off of this idea for a second? Because I love the whole Tamate Bako thing that you've like been talking about lately. I think it's such an important concept, because we're seeing this happen with Luffy right now, where like when he goes out of Gear 5th, he like, I don't know if that's just like a gag that Oda's doing, but it looks like he's rapidly aging, which like,
the Hody comparison.
Yeah, the Hody comparison's real right now. Unless we see otherwise, I'm pretty convinced that Gear 5th like rapidly ages him. Just like we've heard with Gear 2nd, it shortens his life. Maybe this is another situation like that. So if that's the case, let me just put a tinfoil straw hat idea out there. If Luffy is going to actually age rapidly the more he uses this fruit, is it possible that what people... Perfect, get this out, because, guys, what would the purpose of an immortality surgery be if Law were to perform the surgery on anyone at any point in the story? Who else would it be besides Luffy, the main character, who, in using this power to save everyone on Wano, rapidly ages and like approaches the end of his life as a result of using Gear 5th? Maybe the immortality procedure is what Luffy needs to survive using this ability. We haven't seen what the drawbacks are for Gear 5th yet. Like, we haven't seen the major drawbacks. We've seen, like, for a second he ages, but we haven't seen what the major, like, drawback is for using this game-changing ability. So,
yeah, I've actually talked about this a lot. And it's also because I you know, I believe that it's not going to be full immortality. It's just lifespan. So it's going to be whatever Law has remaining, because that's the currency that we deal with in the story. So I think that whatever Law's got left is what he's going to be able to give to Luffy. He's going to believe in Luffy. He's going to believe that Luffy's going to be the one to take this to the end, and that's what's going to prompt him to do the surgery. Luffy will probably be passed out or dead, and he's not going to be able to say no to it, and then that's how we lose Law.
Oh, that kills me, actually, thinking about Luffy waking up to Law, like you know, like the moment with Luffy and Jinbei where they're like exchanging blood, and they're like laying on the ground next to each other.
Yeah, I was actually thinking of exactly that now.
That moment, right? Where they're laying down, Luffy wakes up and like Law's dead and Luffy's like alive, and it's like, I don't know if you've seen have you seen Attack on Titan?
I have not.
Okay.
I've seen what did I watch, like 20 episodes.
I think
very behind.
Yeah, I think there's like something in the second season that happens that's kind of similar. I won't give any spoilers, but there is a very comparable moment that I would love to see that happen with Law and I love Law. I love him as a character. I wouldn't love to see him die in the story, of course, but
yeah,
at the same time, that moment that'd be quite impactful. That'd be be heavy, man. So
yeah. L to the sword theory at that point, but yeah. So Ty said Nilo Dono's in his sleep. Did you guys already discuss how 10:15 confirmed Yamato for the crew? I mean, the anime has made me love Yamato way more than I ever did in the manga. And I mean, I like Yamato a lot. And I started to like Yamato a lot more when we saw their fruit and like ice powers, because I just love ice powers to begin with. So if it works and Oda goes with it, like I'm on board. But I think we're still getting Momo and Tama and Vivi as well, and it's going to be a big old party.
Is Frozone your favorite character in The Incredibles?
Yes.
With the super suit?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes. No hesitation. Yes.
No hesitation. That's awesome.
And then also at the end, Milo asked, when are we going to the moon? Which also ties into something that Brandon King asked earlier. When's the next time we're going to see Enel? And will he return on Elbaf? I mean, maybe because of the Thor comparisons, but when are we going to the moon? I don't know, unless Laugh-Tale is on the moon. You know, it's a possibility as well. Maybe it's not underground, it's up top, you know.
Yeah, it's a theory that I've heard a bunch, like in the past year. I am open to it being on the moon. The only question, like the only obstacle that we'd have to get over is explaining away how they're able to survive on the moon, because the explanation for the Lunarians is that they were able to exist in the most harsh of environments, and Enel is a Skypian, and he possibly has like genetic influence from the Lunarians there. He's also a Logia user, so like electricity may not need to breathe in outer space. But how do we get the Straw Hats up there
If we can coat them all in resin, then they're not gonna have to worry.
There we go. This is why I'm such a fan, because these theories work out, man. They all connect. I love it.
Grizzly Adams asked about something that we did talk about at the beginning of the stream. Hidden, your Yamato Momo vid is my favorite one that you've made. Have you changed your opinions on that at all, or do you still think that Yamato stays, Momo goes? Also, how's the Whitebeard video going? So we did talk about this at the beginning at length. When I put the VOD up for this afterwards, we can give a Spark Notes though.
Yeah, I'll just basically quickly surmise my thoughts. Is I still believe Momo's going to join, although this kind of connects to the video where I was talking about how they were both like two halves of the Odin coin, which I said. I think that at this point they're kind of tied together. They're attached at the hip, and I feel like if Momo's going to join, it's possible that Yamato will join with Momo, and it'll be like a combined package deal. But I'm still of the opinion that Momo will join. And as for the Whitebeard video, I am working on it. It is getting longer than I thought it would be. No surprise though, because he's my favorite character, and the more I write about him, the more I find to write about him. So I wanted to actually put that video out tomorrow. I don't know if that's going to happen. It might take a couple more days. But yeah, it's well in the works. I appreciate the interest though. I'm very excited to put this one out. I have a lot of attachment to this video in particular. So,
yeah, I see Yamato going. I talked earlier about how I want Luffy to be at Ace's grave, right? But I also think that it would be appropriate if Yamato and Tama were there at the same time, because they all have like a tie to Ace. So that makes sense to me. The only person that I'm really iffy joining the crew at all is just Carrot, and that's just, and it's really just what Oda has been doing with Carrot, and it's like I use this analogy a couple of times, but it's like, all right, you're in the high school cafeteria, right? And everybody's got they've got their tables. You got the theater kids, you got the jocks, you got the punk kids, the goth kids. Everybody's sitting at their own table, right?
Great analogy.
So you have all of the Straw Hats sitting together at the beginning of Wano, and Carrot went to the mink table. She didn't go and sit with the Straw Hats. Yeah. The Straw Hats went and they did all of these different things and all of this stuff. Even at Yasuie's execution, Carrot did not join in, wasn't there to be in the battle with everything. She stayed with Wanda and went and did all of these other things for Inuarashi. Meanwhile, she just had this long, journey where she was sitting with the Straw Hats for a while at Whole Cake Island. And I've never seen her interact with Frankie. I've never seen her interact with Zoro. I've never seen her interact with Robin. And it's just, other than Zoro and Carrot fighting for like 5 seconds at the beginning of Zo. So it's like, and now we're in Onigashima. And who does she stay with? She, at the beginning of it, she stays with Nami, who's just someone that she had an established relationship with in Whole Cake Island. And then once it's like, zeroes in on this whole Perospero thing, she's with Wanda. Now she hasn't left Nekomamushi's side in chapters. She's sitting at the mink table. I don't think she goes with the Straw Hats unless Oda puts her back onto the table, and I'm just like, I don't know what's going on here.
I can't, like, the thing is with Carrot, I think the Straw Hats are allowed to make friends without having them need to become like members of the crew. Carrot is a friend to the Straw Hats. They have formed an alliance. Remember, guys, that the alliance is called the it's the Straw Hat, Samurai, and Mink Alliance. So she is as much of a part of the Straw Hat crew as the Samurai are, as Raizo is, as Kinemon is. She's part of this alliance, but at the end of the day, I don't think that she needs to be a Straw Hat. She has served her purpose in the story as the representative of the Minks on the Straw Hat ship.
Yeah.
Pedro did as well, and now she's kind of carrying on Pedro's will in this war. She's the one that got revenge. Her and Nekomamushi and Inuarashi and Wanda, they all kind of got revenge for Pedro she doesn't need to be locked into the crew just because she has a relationship with the Straw Hats, you know?
My guy Ty, he's such a sav. He said, just tell Carrot to sit down to eat some grass. Shout out to Perisparrow. Lucy V said, I saw a Japanese theory once that one ancient weapon maybe could control the tides, and the world government flooded the world, committing a massive genocide and causing the world to look like what it looks like now. Now, I've always assumed that the Void Century is there because of a mass genocide. That's a great way to get us there, and it also prompts the necessary need for the Noah, right? A great flood is coming, so, you know, let's get everybody onto the ship and save people. And it's also a reason why, you know, you would go underwater and why you would go above onto Zoe as well.
And if we're taking this back to the Jormungandr discussion we were having earlier, the World Snake stuff, the end, or I believe it was the end of the era of the gods where the loop is broken. What happens? What is the cataclysm that takes over the world? It is a great flooding that happens. So if we're doing this whole reverse, like, World Snake mythology, a great flood coming about with the existence of the Red Line would connect so well. It would make so much sense because that's how we got.
And Norse mythology is the reason why we're all here anyway. That's what got Oda into One Piece. So when we do get to Elbaf and quote me, we will go there. Oda's gonna flex because it's just as much as he wanted to do Wano. Trust me, he wants to do Elbaf.
He really wants to do Elbaf. He has so much, like, influence coming from Norse mythology. So I'm ready. I'm ready for the Great Flood stuff. I'm ready for the Red Line stuff. I fully expect like probably the biggest lore dump in the series in Elbaf. Up until that point, will probably be the biggest lore dump. So,
Enter Name said, "What's our headcanon for what really happened at the Reverie?"
You can take that, Randy. I have a video on that, so I'll keep my thoughts concise on it.
As far as Vivi, which is my favorite thing to speculate upon, I think that Wapol told Big News Morgans that Vivi was a pirate. And I think that Sabo, either Sabo or Sai and Leo, who all have Viva cards to Luffy, got Vivi out of there. And she is, you know, basically a fugitive now with a bounty because she was formerly a pirate, and she's on her way to Luffy. And wherever they go after Wano, Vivi's going to be there to meet up with them, and she's going to have a bounty now.
That's a great... I have not heard that before. That's an excellent...
Oh, it's my favorite theory. It's only like a 10-minute video on the channel I did like 2 years ago. But
jeez,
Vivi's coming back.
That throws my theory on its head, and to be honest, I like this one more. I'll be honest, man. I was convinced that Sabo died at Reverie, or at least something really bad happened to him. But I mean, yeah, him kidnapping Vivi would make a lot of sense for the headline reactions. I'm not totally buying into him getting captured. I just feel like it would be too much of a retread of the Ace situation.
That's why I want it to be Luffy. You know, I mean, it's totally within Oda's wheelhouse to have it be Sabo, but that's why I want him to flip it. Let it be Luffy. Have this rally moment of all these people come and save him, but and have Sabo be part of the people that's trying to save him. Give him the opportunity to go to Marineford and do what he couldn't do for Ace, but for Luffy.
Yeah, let Sabo prove himself, because right now he's kind of just an extension of Ace. Like let him kind of like come into his own as a character. I totally, I'm with that, and I mean that's a really interesting idea, because I completely forgot that Wapol being at the Reverie is a huge problem for Vivi, because out of everyone there, he knows that she was with the Straw Hats at one point. I don't think there's anyone else there currently. That knows. No,
exactly, and we see in Big News that Wapol is calling Morgans with proprietary information from the Reverie. And it's like, what does he know that no one else knows that would spill the beans? He knows that Vivi was a pirate because he was on the Going Merry and recognized Vivi before Luffy knocked him away.
Can we bust out the soundboard for this one? That's a good one.
Which sound do we need?
What do you think's the hypest one you have? I think you got to hit it with the hypest sound effect you have.
I don't know.
Ready? Hit me with the savage. All right, ready? I'm gonna say something and then.
All right, go ahead. I'll hit you with the savage.
All right. Yo, Vivi got a bounty right now, and Sabo helped her get out of reverie. Savage. Oh man, that's awesome.
Ty had his own soundboard request. Oh my god.
Hit him.
Oh yeah, that's another thing too. I normally start these with this, but what's your origin story with One Piece? Like, how did you get into things?
Cool. Yeah, so with One Piece, I had like a very up and down relationship with when I first got into it. I got into it when I was a kid. I was probably like around the 10 or 11. I don't remember exactly, but I think the anime was up to Skypiea at that point, and I was watching the anime. Unfortunately, my first exposure to One Piece was in the 4Kids dub. Unfortunately as well, once I got past the 4Kids dub and I started watching subbed, this was back in the era of YouTube when you would watch like episodes of Naruto, like Naruto episode 145, part 1 of 8, and you'd have to watch like
you did it like I mean you went and you did a proper rewatch, right?
Yeah. Right. I did. So what happened was I got up to like Skypiea roughly watching on YouTube, and I was a little bit burnt out. It was getting a little long. I didn't have the attention span when I was younger. And I kind of just dropped the series at Skypiea and didn't touch it again until about 4 or 5 years ago, when one of my best friends, he was like convincing me. He was talking about One Piece, and he was like, "This series is amazing. You seriously got to give it another chance, man." At the time, I was just like a big JoJo's guy, so I wasn't like I was an ignorant JoJo's fan. I'm sure some of you guys out there. No harm meant to the JoJo's fan base, but there's a bunch of them out there. I was one of those people who was like, JoJo's the best. I don't want to touch anything else. I don't care. So that's where I was like 5 years ago. My friend finally sits me down. He's like, "Dude, you have to check out this show." Okay. At this point, I'm going through like kind of a rough spot in my life. I was looking for work. I had gone through a breakup. I started living on my own that year. So I was just like in a really pressured situation. And one night I was like, you know what? Let me try and unwind. I'm going to take the recommendation. I'm just going to put on episode 1 of One Piece. And I put episode 1 on Crunchyroll, and I sat over the next 2 months. I watched the entire anime up until the beginning of Whole Cake, and then I just read the rest from there, and it was history, dude. I was like, I became so obsessed with One Piece that in order to like catch up to it, I was doing binging sessions some days of like 30 to 40 episodes in a sitting. I just could not stop. It was like I was so absorbed in the material, and then when I finished it, I did a reread, and now I'm on my like 4th trip through the series. And
if you ever watch it again, you should use One Pace.
Yes, yeah. So I have rewatched a bunch of it on like using One Pace, which is a way better way to experience the series. But I will say, I mean, for my first time through, I didn't get affected too hard by the pacing. I think the only part that I had to take a break for a little bit was when I got to Punk Hazard. Was I think the big point in the story where I was like, okay, I just need to step away for a little bit because I'm starting to feel the drag. But once I finished Punk Hazard, Dressrosa, I finished in like 2 sittings. That was epic. And then yeah, I mean, here I am. My wife actually, who I met 3 years ago. Or I met 4 years ago. I got married a little over 2 years ago. She reads One Piece, and I didn't know this when I met her. We were talking about anime, and then One Piece came up, and then it was it was a wrap. So like One Piece has played such a big part in
right. Yeah, you just popped the knee right there.
Yeah, no, I proposed like right there. She told me I like One Piece. What actually happened was I had this Trafalgar Law, this big puffy law hat. And I sent her, she was in Japan at the time. I sent her a picture of me in the law hat, and she's like, is that Trafalgar Law? Like, is that Law's hat? And I was like, wait, you know what this is? And she's like, yeah, I own every volume. And I was like, oh, cool. I guess we're getting married now. So that's what happened with that. And yeah, I mean, needless to say, One Piece has been such like a big part of my life. And for the past like year or two, I've been making these theories. I've been sharing them with my friends, and they gave me the idea to start a channel. And yeah, what happened with the channel though, I don't know if you remember, Morge did this like event on his he did an event on his channel where he was looking for someone to like not edit for his videos, but like to find the manga panels for his videos, and he had like a little competition where like you email in and then you'd have to like time yourself and find the panels he wanted. I was like so hyped about that. I entered and I was in the last group. I was like in the top 5% of entrants, and I was telling I was like hitting these like panels like really quickly. I just knew where to find everything. And my friends were talking about, they're like, you're gonna get this job. They're like, that's really cool. And I'm like, yeah, but if I don't get it, I'm gonna just start on my own channel. I'm just gonna do my own channel. So of course I didn't get the position. I didn't get the job with Morge. And I was like, you know what? That's fine. This is gonna be my fuel to like start my own thing. And then in August of that summer, I started the Hidden Island with my first video. And now we're here. Now I'm on stream, and it's like surreal talking to, you know, another One Piece YouTuber like this. So long journey, very worth it, very close to my heart. I love One Piece, and I love the One Piece community. So
there we go. There we go. There we go. So Chin earlier, he said,
I see Morge in the chat. He says you lost though.
Morge is in the chat right now.
He's ghosting me. The guy I thought is way better, I bet. He says, oh man, don't do this to me. I'm gonna cry on stream.
Oh, I see Morge's. I see his comment now. What's up, Morge?
I'm catching flames out here.
My guy Chin, he said, thanks Hidden Island for being here. And he asked, what is your favorite, and he included Morge in this too, in his post. He said, what's your favorite Randy theory, what's your favorite Morge theory or analysis video?
Ooh. Okay, so my favorite Randy theory right now has to be the whole thing with the Sulong, the Tamade Bako, all that stuff connecting to what's happening right now with the Nika fruit. That's definitely my favorite theory of yours. It's also fresh in my mind, so like that one I find myself thinking about a lot.
I do like that one.
Yeah, I like that one. I also like the laws and sword theory. I mean, you have great theories, and that's one of the reasons I like your channels because when I come to your videos, you have this very chill atmosphere. Kind of what I wanted to do with my channel was like having a conversation directly with the viewer. That was like a big point on my bullet point on my list of what I wanted for my channel. That's why I like yours. Your theories are very grounded, sensible. They come from a place where like you really clearly understand the story. So like it's hard for me to pick a favorite theory of yours. Same with Morge. Now that you're in the chat, I can tell you, Morge, that your channel is probably the biggest influence on mine out of all the YouTubers. I watched basically all of your videos prior to making my own channel. And yeah, I would say if I had to pick a favorite theory of yours, it would be the Smoker joins the Straw Hats theory. I really, really love that idea a lot. I think that I think Smoker deserves something. He deserves a boost in the story. He's been itching for like some way to be relevant.
Morge and I talked about that for a while when he was here.
Yeah, it's a great theory, man. I think it's like perfect to have him come full circle and join. It would be such a great like it would be really great for the narrative of One Piece to have a Marine kind of change sides by the end of it. So that's my favorite.
And he will. I just don't think he's going to be an official Straw Hat.
An official Straw Hat, and that's fair.
Yeah.
I do think he has a good potential to join. But yeah, I mean, that would probably be my favorite theory. But once again, it's like what I said for your channel, where like, I really like what you guys do, and it's like it is a big source of inspiration for what I do. So it's like really hard for me to just like single out one theory and be like, yeah, this is like better than all the others.
Morge said, wait, way better to have your own channel than find images because that's boring. He did you a favor.
No, honestly, if I could go back and take that test again, I mean, I'd fail it on purpose because I really do enjoy making my videos now, and I didn't realize I'd enjoy it until I actually sat down for your test and was like finding the panels myself, and I was like, you know, this is kind of fun. Like this is good to look back on the story, and then like once I had that experience, it kind of opened my eyes to the One Piece YouTube thing. So like I'm glad. I'm actually glad. I think sometimes things work out for the better, and I still love your channel very much, and it's a continual source of inspiration for mine, and so is yours, Randy. I watch your videos all the time, and you know, for me, it's like I'd like to keep it this way. You know, I would do it. I would do it all over again the same way. So
that's great. Morge said, "Thanks, man. I appreciate hearing that so much, and I appreciate it too, man. It's awesome. We got this is." This is a good one. Mort said, "Yeah, Smoker. All right, cool. We all agree on that."
Yeah, no, Smoker's dope, man. I see the chat popping off too. I love this.
Oh yeah.
I love
the chat's hilarious right now.
Yeah,
but yeah, man. No, this was fun. And I think I am gonna wrap things up here because I like to keep these theory for theories a little tighter because I do make VODs for them on the main, you know, or at least I take segments of them. But lately I've just been reposting the whole thing, and yeah, there was a lot of great stuff in this, and you know, we'll have to do this again.
Absolutely, you know? I would love to do this again. We have so much more to talk about, I'm sure. Yeah. So like,
and feel free, you know, I can come over to your channel and stuff as well. Let's see. Yeah, I think the most mind blowing thing to come out of this for me was your Hiyori thought that Hiyori is the big death of Wano, and I was like, you had some good justification for it. That was because that was easily the first time I've ever heard that.
I will raise you your Sabo kidnaps Vivi from the Reverie. I think that is like my favorite idea today. Like, I'm gonna be thinking about that, dude. Like after this stream, I'm gonna
It's like my oldest theory too.
That's a great one. That's a good one. You gotta hold on to those old theories, man.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I still believe it. You know, that's just, you know, or Sai and Leo. Somebody that has a Viva card is with Vivi right now. That's
sure.
That's the thing, and I can't wait to get them back. And Mort said, "Peace, guys. We'll watch this later, though."
Yeah, I'll see you, Morge. Yeah. Thanks for stopping by, man.
Later, my guy. And then Parvision said, "Wait till Randy sees our bingo board." What?
Yeah, so when I did a stream with Parvision 2 weeks ago, like I mentioned, and on that stream we did a bingo board of our predictions for 2022, like One Piece. I think I actually brought this idea up to you when I reached back out to you a few months ago.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
I had this, like, I really wanted to do this, so like I couldn't hold it in anymore. We're already like getting to like the 5th month of 2022. I was like, you know what? Let's just do this bingo board. So we sit down, we do the bingo board, and we had some crazy ideas on there. The Hiyori dies idea is on that bingo board. So just putting it out there. If you guys like that idea, there's more on that board that are. There's a bunch of crazy.
I want to say, all right, you know, you had my curiosity, but now you have my attention.
That's just one of many that we cooked up. So
yeah.
Yeah. All right, man.
All right, so so we're gonna wrap things up here, guys. Follow, sub to the Hidden Island. Check out Parvision as well. He's in the chat, and check out Mr. Morge. He's another small YouTuber that's on the rise. And
crazy theory out there right now. Thomas Teapot is Odin, guys.
Yep.
he's making waves right now. I'm sorry, Morge. I got to throw some fire back at you. I'm sorry, man. I just got.
Boombuku's joining the crew. He was in that. Boombuku was in a color spread too, guys.
Yeah, guys, come on.
He was in a color spread with Tama. He's coming with Tama.
Read between the lines.
No. No. Let's see. What else? Stay tuned. I'm really trying this week to get out the Joy Boy, wasn't human theory, and as long as I can edit it. My goal is Tuesday, maybe Wednesday. I just don't want to get eaten up by the chat. This is going to be a big theory, guys. So if you see this one, share it around. And thanks everybody for being here. And again, check out the Hidden Island.
Yes.
Thanks for being here, man. Thanks everybody for being here. And man, 10:48. Next Friday.
Next Friday, guys. Next Friday. Keep an eye out. We're definitely going to be. I'll be talking about that probably on stream myself when that drops. Got a new video dropping in a couple days too. So exciting stuff, guys. Randy, thank you for having me on the stream. It was a pleasure.
I've been swimming deep, deep. Savage.